David here with Figboot on Pens, back again with another fountain pen review. A couple of weeks ago, I finally got around to reviewing a popular pen which has been in my collection for many years, and that was the Pilot Falcon. It's an outstanding pen that I grow fonder of each time I use it. What I have for you today is a look at the metal version of this pen, creatively named the Pilot Metal Falcon. What I'm going to do today is go over the parts and features of the Metal Falcon, talk about what I care for and what I don't care for about the pen. I'll show some measurements, size comparisons. I'll show you the differences between this pen and the original Pilot Falcon, and provide a writing sample. This is a pen from my personal collection, which I recently purchased. The pen arrives in this rather disposable box. Some of Pilot's marketing copy describes this as an elegant gift box. It's an inexpensive box, far from elegant, but that's fine though. I've been trying to do my best to not hold on to boxes like this. I posted this picture on Instagram recently. I decided to do some spring cleaning and throw away a bunch of pen boxes, enough that it filled up an entire large recycling bin. I went through all of my boxes and made some tough decisions. I held on to the ones that I felt were really special or had some sentimental value, but disposed of the rest for the sake of getting rid of clutter. I had a hard time throwing away things like this sometimes, but every so often it's something you just gotta do. It might hurt a little bit to let go of some things, but at the end you feel better for it. In this box, which I will recycle and not hold on to for a couple of years, there is a use and care guide. There is a proprietary Pilot cartridge, and then we have the pen. This is the Pilot Metal Falcon. It comes in a number of colors. There is black, brown, burgundy, and sapphire. And the one I chose to purchase was the burgundy. There are many differences between the metal and the resin versions of this pen. For this portion of the review, I'm just going to focus on the parts and features of the metal, and then after the size comparisons, I'll go into the numerous differences. I mentioned this in the previous Falcon review, but in the Asian markets, this pen is called the Ilabo, I believe that's how it's pronounced, which is a combination of the Japanese word irabu, which means to choose, and the English word elaborate. While it is made from a lacquered metal and heavier than the resin version, I wouldn't categorize this as an overly hefty pen. I'd say that it was weight appropriate. And the trim on this pen is rhodium. Let's take a look at the top of the cap. The finial is metal, with the end being flat with a circular groove. And then we have the clip. It's a unique swooping design that I believe Pilot only uses on the two Falcon models. The clip functions well in materials both thick and thin. The cap angles up from the end, with the angle flattening out the closer you get to the end of the cap. On the back side of the cap, right below an angled band, it is printed Pilot Japan. That angled design creates a rather smooth step down to the barrel, which tapers down at an even angle until you reach another metal piece and the end of the barrel is flat. The lacquering on this pen is really nice. You can see here that it's not like a straight flat paint. There's a bit of depth to it, which adds to the visual aesthetics of this pen. The cap twists off with 1 1/4 rotations, and underneath we have what I consider to be the highlight of the pen, this uniquely shaped 14-karat gold nib. The shape allows for the tines to be a bit more flexible than most other standard nibs. It is available in what is described as soft extra fine, soft medium, and soft broad. I find the descriptor soft to be appropriate for this particular nib. It's a real pleasure to use, and it helps give you a bit of what I would call effortless flex. It can add a lot of flair to your handwriting with minimal effort or intent. And here's a look at the plastic feed. I really like the low swooping profile of the feed. The combination of the unique nib and the angled feed makes for a good-looking profile. There is a small forward portion of the section, and then there's a ring, and the section angles up just a little bit over 1 millimeter from beginning to end until you reach another band and a very small step up to the plastic threads and a minuscule step up to the remainder of the barrel. The section is a bit on the long side. I can maintain a solid grip. I don't find my grip spilling over to the threads, but if yours does, I don't find the threads to be sharp or uncomfortable. They are plastic. The pen is plenty long enough to use unposted. It does post. It does post securely as well. I just wish it posted just slightly deeper. That way the cap would be resting a bit more on the inside of your hand, at least for me, and it would feel a little bit more balanced in the hand. As it stands now, I find the cap just slightly backweights the pen, just barely enough for me to want to use this pen unposted. But if you like to post your pens, it might not make that much of a difference for you. This is a cartridge converter pen. Pilot has a proprietary filling system, and this pen accepts Pilot cartridges, and the large Con 70 converter is provided. Just a reminder that I'll go over the differences between the metal and resin versions of this pen here in a bit, but the resin version has the smaller Con 50 converter. With the metal in this pen, eyedropping would not be recommended. The Pilot Metal Falcon is available from a number of retailers and sells for $240. That's about $60 more than the resin model. $240 is what I paid for this particular pen, and I don't feel bad about that price. Would I like it more if it was less than $200? Sure, but at $240, I don't feel that it was overpriced. Okay, now it is time for some measurements. Size comparisons. I'll show you the difference between this metal and resin version, and then provide a writing sample. Here we go with some size comparisons for the Pilot Metal Falcon. Here it is with a standard Metal Falcon. Then here, in regard to a couple of other Pilot pens, here it is with a Custom Heritage 92 and a Pilot Custom 823. Here it is with a Pilot Vanishing Point and a TWSBI Diamond 580. And then finally, here it is with a Lamy All-Star. In regard to uncapped comparisons, here it is with the 823 and the Custom Heritage 92, as well as the Lamy All-Star. So here we go with the comparison between the two models. It's a little tough to see here, but the metal version is just like maybe a millimeter or two longer than the resin version. On the ends here, you can see that the resin has a resin finial and the metal is metal. The ends are slightly different as well with the ring here and then just the insert. The clips are the same. Then it comes down to the band. The band is solid here on the metal, and then the resin has more of a traditional band. The ends here are slightly different. You can see the difference between the metal and the resin, and the one on the metal is slightly longer. So in regard to uncapped, you can see here that the nibs are the same, the sections are the same, but the differences come in here when it gets to the beginning of the barrel. You can see the threads are just slightly longer here in the metal version, and there's an extra band here at the back as compared to the resin model. So here we go with the writing sample for the Pilot Metal Falcon. This is what they call their soft medium nib, and it is 14 karat gold, and it is very soft. And the ink that I'm using, appropriately enough, is Pilot Iroshizuku Yalbudo. Which is one of my favorite purples. This is what the ink looks like. It's a nice kind of reddish purple. This is what it looks like in comparison to Private Reserve Plum. And then you can see that it's a bit different than something like more of a violet purple, which is this cross violet. This is what the bottle looks like. You've probably seen this many times. It's hard to see here, but this is down to about a quarter full. So this is a bottle I'll definitely get through eventually. I kind of like here on this rope that over time, a little ink gets on there and it just looks a little bit used, which I kind of like. And here we go with the rest of the writing sample. As I mentioned before, the soft name I think is very appropriate for this. What I like is that it gives you some kind of effortless flair. If you push it, you can get a lot of line variation here, but with little pressure, it looks fairly normal. And that it doesn't feel too bouncy either, which a lot of flex nibs feel very bouncy. This one doesn't. The ink flow is really nice on here in regard to reverse writing. It gets the job done, but it is rather sharp. And then in regard to some fast writing, the feed has no issue in keeping up. So here we have the Pilot Metal Falcon. I said this in my other Falcon review that the more I use this pen, the more I like it. And this one is relatively new to my collection, but just like with the resin version, this nib is outstanding. And every time I use it, I think to myself that I should use it more. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.